Hi, Sarah. First of all, let me apologize for the essays. Friday, we had conferences. I graded a couple during conferences. And then I went and worked on the baseball field for 4 hours after lunch, and remember we had a home basketball game. I'm like, well, I'll come up and watch basketball. You know, just come from the field. I was dirty and everything. Watched all the games and then went home and was watching Netflix with the wife. Stomach started. Oh, man. Something's not right. At 1 o'clock in the morning, praying to the porcelain god. And it's ugly. Saturday was rough. I mean, you know, that Saturday morning and the Saturday. So, slept a lot on Saturday and Sunday. You know, you guys know how it is when you're sick. I'm a bad patient. You know, guys are when they get sick. Yeah, Monday rolls around and I'm feeling pretty good. I needed to get some work done at the baseball field, so I spent about 5 hours out there. Then, you know, yesterday we had all this stuff, and then I had a parent meeting, and player meeting after school. That dang basketball game. I should not have played. I think I messed up my AC joint in my left shoulder. Having trouble moving my left arm.
That's good for both.
Well, I throw right-handed, so I'm okay.
Oh, I guess that is true.
Swinging a front
Yeah,
go.
it's sweet.
I got about 10, you know, I don't know, about 7 days before I probably really need to swing a bat. So, please accept my apologies for not having those graded. I will be working on them. Okay, I promise. I promise. All right. Okay, so we're a little bit short on time today. Here, let me dim this, at least this front light, so you can see a little better. Yeah, so today we're going to talk about the Virginia plan that Madison brought to room. We are in the Constitutional Convention, 1787. Okay, started in May. Okay, and will run about 3 months through September 17th. Okay, and what they're debating is a new form of government and a new constitution. So Madison brings this Virginia plan with it. Okay, and it's important because this is going to be the basis that the debate will take place over. Okay, so strong central government. Do we have that today? Betcha. Okay. Do we have a bicameral legislature? You betcha. Strong executive and judiciary? You betcha. Okay. Now, the legislatures, both houses, because it's bicameral, are going to be based on populations of the states. Is that what we have today? No, not completely, right? So right there, we can tell Madison's not going to get everything he wants. There are going to be 55 delegates in that room from 13 states, and they're going to have differences of opinion. Okay? Now, if the legislature, both of them are based on population, then the big states, which these are your five most populated states at the time. Okay? Virginia, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Maryland, North Carolina. Okay? They're going to get more representatives in the legislature, obviously, okay? And that gives them more power. Who has less power? Small states, okay? Now, how are you going to elect these two chambers? People get to elect the first house, And then that house elects the second house based on nominations that the state gives them. Okay? So that's different than what we have today, too. Okay? The members of the executive and judiciary would be chosen by the legislature. What kind of system is that? Parliamentary. Okay, good. You know, like algebra, it kind of builds on itself, right? We've studied that. All right, now, what new powers are we going to grant to this new government? Okay, so it's going to have much greater power than it had under the Articles of Confederation. Okay, the power to levy taxes, which under the Articles they did not have. The power to make national laws. The power to regulate trade. This looks like a pretty strong national government to me. Now, I think you're going to get a problem, not just from the small states, but you're going to have a problem with some of the delegates in the room thinking, this is too much power. Okay? So, as I mentioned, there's going to be a competing plan to this. You might call it the small states plan. Okay? Let me just make sure you know this, okay? On the test, which is still a ways away, okay? Don't think about the test. Yeah. There's a 5-point medium answer on this, okay? You're going to tell me a little bit about the Virginia plan, a little about the New Jersey plan, and the resulting compromise, which is called the what? Not just any compromise, but the great compromise. You guys remember this, right? Okay. Yeah, the Great Compromise, which is thought up by one of the medium-sized states. You guys remember which state came up with this idea for the compromise? We don't really talk about this state very often. Connecticut. Okay. Connecticut plan. All right. So you'll just write about a little bit about each of those and what the compromise. Okay, so, and that's all we're covering today. All right, so let's get into this New Jersey plan. It's actually introduced by a guy named William Patterson. Okay, now if you didn't know this, New Jersey is called the Garden State. Have you guys ever flown into Newark, New Jersey? The place is an armpit. Okay, it's like Gary, Indiana. You don't want to go there, okay? But you get outside of Newark, New Jersey, and it's a beautiful state, okay? Check this out. More bears per capita than any of the 50 states. Black bears. They got a lot of woods with bears, okay? You guys know they have bears in Florida? Black bears? A lot of bears in Florida. They have hogs, too. Wild hogs, you know the wild hogs, like they have in Texas. There are wild hogs in Oklahoma, Kansas.
I mean, a lot of them are just.
The ones on farms, yeah. About the wild, like boars.
I've never heard of any.
Them in Florida. I mean, they can kill you. You know what I mean? They're mean. Feral. Okay.
All right. So, it's a helicopter.
What? Okay.
What does it say? In a really high pitched voice, so it really guides.
All right.
Yes.
Did I nail it?
Yeah.
Guy with the hammer that right.
Do you have plastic glasses? Oh, yeah.
I don't really play it anymore.
I've heard of the game. My son played it. Okay. Yeah. right off the bat, guys, we're gonna have 3 branches here. So just like the Virginia plan, 3 branches. This is both a big change from the Articles of Confederation. Power to tax, power to regulate trade. What's missing here?
Laws.
Making national laws. Okay, again, this is fearing powerful government. Okay, but then as we get into the legislative branch under the New Jersey plan, did I tell you William Patterson was the guy that introduced this? Okay. Oh, what's happening here? Okay. They're going to call for a unicameral legislature, which means one house. Yes. That unicameral legislature is going to allow for 1 representative from each house or from each state, not based on population, which is a lot like the Articles. Yes? Each state is represented equally. Each state has the same amount of power in the legislative branch. These representatives will be selected by state legislatures, not by the people. Which really, the state legislatures will control who they send to the national government, which allows the states to retain more power. Okay, this is big. Okay, now, the only other thing I could add to this, from like my honors notes, from what you seeing here from my regular notes, is that this is also a parliamentary system. Okay, the legislature would elect the executive, and this was kind of cool. The governors could remove the president. So like an impeachment case here would be the governors that could impeach the president. Again, giving the states power over the national government in this case. Okay? Wonder how many impeachments we would have had if that was like in the Constitution over the years. Like, think about the Civil War. Okay, you guys, were there more northern states than southern states?
It was equal.
Was it equal?
That was why there was a civil war.
Same number of states though?
Pretty much.
That's it. So what, 11 seceded, eventually 13 maybe?
I don't know the Civil War itself, but like leading up to it, there were constantly the compromises of, okay, you want a slave state, let's make a free state out of nowhere.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, that's kind of an interesting take. Now, some of this is going to make its way into the Constitution, some of it's not. Okay, so what we need is to vote. All right? Who's voting for the Virginia plan? No. Who's voting for the Virginia plan? Oh, you got it. All right, all right. All right. Who's voting for the New Jersey plan? Go. Now, you need 9 of the 13 states or delegations. Okay? Here's the result. You're going to have this vote on June 19th. 7 states will vote for the Virginia plan. 3 will vote for the New Jersey plan. And 3 will abstain courteously. Or we're on the fence. Gotta have 9. Looks like we need to do some more debating. Okay? So the debate over these 2 plans will last an entire month. Okay? They're going to argue about this a lot until Connecticut comes up with this compromise. And this compromise, the great compromise, guys, is really only about the legislative branch. This representation and how the legislature will be filled. Okay, so we'll look at some other compromises later in the week on the executive branch, the 3/5 compromise, that sort of thing, later in the week. Okay, so we turn the page to great compromise. So Virginia's going to get what it wants, a legislature filled with population, based on population. New Jersey's going to get what it wants. Okay? And you probably can figure this out if you're smart. One is the House of Representatives, one is the Senate. Yes? Okay? So, see how this plays out. It's July 16th, 1787. They're going to create a bicameral legislature. On Ash Wednesday, I realized just how much I like to touch my forehead. And then I'm like, oh. So, the U.S. House of Representatives be based on population and elected directly by the people. Is that what we have today? Yeah, that's what we have today, right? The other chamber is going to be called the United States Senate. Where we came up with that word. Or before that. Romans, yeah. Okay. The Senate, each state would have 2 representatives elected by state legislatures. Is this what we have today? No? Evan? What's different today?
Elected by the state.
Oh, they're not elected by the state legislatures anymore. Did you know that? Yeah. So if this was originally the compromise, and this originally was in the Constitution, and they changed the Constitution, you would need a what to do that? An amendment to the Constitution. Does anybody know which amendment to the Constitution changed this last line? But you didn't memorize it.
Permanently, no.
It's not your long-term memory. It is in there. You just got to shake it out. 2 terms. And don't say first.
23rd.
No.
No.
Caught yourself. 22nd? No, that's 2 terms for president. No, it's poll taxes.
17th.
Yes.
Oh.
Let's
go.
The 17th Amendment. Okay? Now,
Nice.
how much time do I have? Okay, let's talk about it. Okay? The 17th Amendment needs to be repealed. Now, when they got rid of the state legislatures electing the Senate, they allowed the people to. Yes? So instead of the states sending these senators, the people get sent. Pierce, can you name our 2 senators from the state of Kansas? Yes, he is. That's okay. No, that's not a senator.
Roger Bush.
Okay, as a group, we figured it out. Okay, but the fact is, and good job, for knowing a little bit there. Okay, the other classes I chose somebody that didn't know the answer. So you got it. I was trying to prove a point, and you're kind of screwing that up.
Should have thanked me. I didn't know.
But my point is, how do you hold these senators' feet to the fire to represent the will of Kansas if the people of Kansas don't even know who they are? Okay. My point would be the people in Topeka in our state legislatures. You think they know who our 2 senators in Washington are? Of course. They probably know them personally in some cases. Yes? I've met Jerry Moran, but I don't really know him personally. Never met Roger Marshall. Okay. But here's the thing, guys. We're creating a closer relationship between the federal government and the individual here. Okay. The other amendment that needs to be repealed is the one that came before it, the 16th. Anybody know what the 16th Amendment was? When people turn 16, a lot of them start doing what? Driving and getting a what? A job. Okay, working. If you start working at 16, you start paying what? Taxes. So the 16th Amendment creates the federal income tax. Well, wait a second, Mr. Ebright. Didn't this new government get the power to tax? Yes, it did. So the government was taxing us all the way up till the 16th Amendment. Hi.
Hello.
Okay, but what the government wasn't doing was taxing the individual. The federal government would tax the states based on their population. So the state of Kansas would tax you. And then the federal government would tax the state of Kansas based on its population. You with me? The 16th Amendment changes that. It creates a relationship between the federal government and you, the individual. Prior to the 16th Amendment, that didn't exist. There was no direct relationship unless you worked for the federal government or you were in the Army or the Navy. You didn't have a direct relationship with the federal government. Now you do. And now you have a direct relationship with the Internal Revenue Service, which is one of the most powerful entities of government we have. Okay? So, Mr. Ebright thinks we should repeal the 16th and 17th Amendment. Here's how. Well, I mean, when you say this, people are like, what? What are you talking about? Well, a few years ago, I joined this group. My wife calls it a cult. It's called Convention of the States. Now, the Constitutional Convention in 1787 that we are talking about right now is a convention of the states, where 13 states agreed to send delegates to Philadelphia for the purposes of framing a new constitution. What the Convention of the States would like to do is get 34 states of the 50, which is 2/3 of them, to send delegates to Philadelphia for the purposes of proposing amendments to the Constitution, first among them, term limits on members of Congress. So when I heard about this group, I'm like, I like the way these people think. So I got online, I signed up, and I went to a meeting. And I spoke up, and I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. You know what we need to do is get rid of the 16th and 17th Amendments. And they're like, yeah, we agree with you, but shh. When you talk about that out loud, people think you're crazy. Like, well, I don't care. Let's explain it to them. It's hard to explain to people. Okay? Now, term limits, that's easy to explain to people. These members of Congress can get as elected many times as they can get reelected. And here's the thing. They like to get reelected. They like to spend your money. They like to tax you. And then do things with that money. Here's the problem. We're $31 trillion in debt. Now, if the Senate was still elected by the state of Kansas, not by the people, the state legislature would send Roger Marshall and Jerry Moran off to D.C. and say, look, you need to balance the budget. Kansas has to balance our own budget. California has to balance their budget. All 50 states have to balance their budget. Federal government does not. Now, I understand running deficits during an emergency, like a war, World War I, World War II. You may have to print more money than you're taking in. Okay? Sell war bonds. Raise money for the war. Okay? In a depression type situation, you may have to spend more than you're bringing in. But as a normal course of governing, this year are we in an emergency right now? I don't know. Is the pandemic over? Biden said it was, and then his people said it wasn't. We got a war in Ukraine. That's kind of a crisis. I mean, but generally, we have inflation, which was created by, too much government spending. Is that a crisis? Well, if you're trying to buy eggs, it is. Right? So, or gas, right? So, listen. The national debt this year will be 1.6 trillion. We will spend 1.6 trillion more than we take in. Now, Biden is celebrating that, saying, I have reduced the deficit by $3 trillion since I was elected president. And he's right. Because during COVID, we printed $6 trillion. And now we're only 1.6. So that means he's lowered it $3 trillion. Than that, on an annual basis. Well, congratulations. Now, anyhow, he doesn't control the purse. Who does? House. Yeah, these people control the purse. Okay, and that has people in both parties. Okay, you want to talk about 31 trillion? Blame both parties. Okay, it's not just the Democrats; it's the Republicans too. Trust me. Now, so if Senate was elected by the state legislature, they'd say, listen, don't be raising a bunch of taxes and spending all this money. It's killing the people of Kansas. And you're running up this national debt, which is damaging to the future. And then we got to pay interest on all this debt, which is now, guys, about 12% of the entire federal budget is now spent on interest on the national debt. So take 12% of everything we take in taxes off the top. Boom, it's gone. Interest. So what would happen? Now, guys, the 17th Amendment made us more democratic. We got to choose our senators. Woo-hoo. Well, what do we frickin' know? Because people are so smart, that's why. The people that nominated and elected John Fetterman to the United States Senate from Pennsylvania, and the people of Georgia, the Republican voters of Georgia that nominated Herschel Walker as the candidate for the Senate in Georgia. Are you kidding me? Can we not come up with better candidates from both parties? You know who these people are? John Fetterman. Have you heard about what he's going through? I mean, God bless the guy. I mean, he's got health problems. Okay? What are the people of Pennsylvania? And then the Republicans put up Dr. Oz, who's not even from Pennsylvania. Yeah, let's let the people choose the senators. Now, Jerry Moran is a moderate Republican. A lot of Democrats like Jerry Moran, which means there's some conservatives that don't. Right? Roger Marshall's more conservative. So that means there's a lot of Democrats that don't like it. And some Republicans that don't. Okay, so at least our guys are kind of normal. Oh, that hurt. Okay. So, look, if you're into this sort of thing, you'd like to see term limits, there's no way Congress would ever propose an amendment to put term limits on itself. So the only way to do that is to join the cult. Now, Kansas, we have 13 states right now that have said they would send delegates for a national convention of the states. Kansas is not one of them. I went to Topeka 2 years ago with my button on when they were talking about it in committee in the State House. And the State House approved it. The State Senate, the last 3 years, have shot it down. Okay, so we need more cult members. So if you're interested, get online, look up Conventions of the States, Kansas, and you can sign the petition. They'll invite you to the meeting, which is usually monthly at Spangles. All right.
We're going, baby.
Tomorrow night will be we will have a reading assignment. Reading assignment tomorrow night.
No way. Start a cult.